Hello, everybody, and welcome to DM Writer's Room, the show where we here at Foolhardy Press demystify the DMing process by coming up with adventures, magic items, and monsters live. I am so happy to announce that I am finally not sick. And so I am able to talk at my full volume and am not sort of dreading our streams anymore. Something that I'm very happy to say. If you've missed a couple of our streams or you've been missing our streams not appearing, apologies. A sickness has torn through the various members of our company, which is confusing because no one in this stream lives in the same state. No one in this stream lives in the same state, but somehow we managed to get just a terrible sort of domino of sickness. A couple of us teach, so maybe it's not that surprising, right? You're getting to that middle end of the semesters. Your students are, I assume from my own experience, just kind of rolling around in mud and then going to class, judging by the sort of terrible illnesses that have been ripping around campus. So today we ask ourselves a simple question. If in 19 whatever, I can't remember even though I scripted the video on it, I want to say like 79 or 83, if in the late 1970s, early 1980s, Laura and Tracy Hickman got to go home from a D&D game and say, why aren't there more vampire adventurers that care that there is a vampire in the adventure? Then, lo and behold, why can we not do the same with the beloved Wolfman? Now, I will note, we did not say werewolf. So I don't think we are making necessarily a werewolf adventure. We are making a Wolfman adventure, which has some important differences from my point of view, right? Werewolf stories are about, like ancient curses and about the strange happenings of folk magic. The Wolfman story is about a guy who gets bit by a werewolf and is now a werewolf in a city and navigating that. So we don't necessarily need to be from the perspective of our Wolfman, but I do think we've set up an important genre difference that I'm going to roll with just because the whole point of DM Writer's Room is whatever ideas we accidentally stumble into, we stick with. So I guess we're sticking with this one. First things first, what are our early interests? What, for each of us, makes a Wolfman story a Wolfman story? What makes a Wolfman villain a Wolfman villain? What are the keys to it, right? What are the real operant things there?
So, I've been thinking about it. Wolfman, the Wolfman from the movies, he doesn't go around really making other Wolfmen. Right? Like, it's not
he goes around killing people.
Yeah, he just kills them.
He doesn't make. So my first thought was like, it would be like, Wolfman, in this world makes a bunch of Wolfmen. I think that there's only this one Wolfman.
Hear me out. I'm going to pivot using your idea here. The Wolfman is the first section, is finding this man who has been transformed into a werewolf, maybe not even knowing that that's what's happening, doing this rampage, hurting people every full moon. You go, you discover him, and you essentially teach him the truth. Or you kill him. Either way. And then the progression beyond that is, now that the Wolfman has been dealt with, there is a full werewolf out there haunting the streets of fantasy London. This was just villain numero uno. There's a deeper villain behind that is making the Wolfman.
Really on your Dracula grind, right? We don't start with killing Dracula, right? You start with fucking Renfield and then work your way up to the big dog. I'm very into that. So we've got a pretty simple Act 1, Act 2 here, kind of focusing on this. Maybe we make it a music. I'm just kidding. So we at first start with this Wolfman. What I love about that is it sounds like we're starting with a murder mystery. Bodies have been found, torn apart on the streets. You track them down and find this fledgling werewolf with no control over themselves. You are sadly forced to put them in the dirt. So that also tells us what level we're going to be working with, because I don't want anyone to ever remove curse. Otherwise, it's going to be...
We're looking like level 3,
This is going to be a short adventure if the cleric has removed curse. They deal with this sort of lesser Wolfman. Put him in the ground. We all shed a mournful tear for this fellow. But there is the dying realization that he is not the source, and that there is in fact a nefarious evil in this city that needs dealing with. And then we pivot to dealing with our larger, more substantial threat. A character that we have to meet in Act 1. We cannot do the stupid thing where an Act 2 villain comes out of fucking nowhere and becomes the bad guy. When I think Wolfman story, I think often of the inevitable scene at the end of like every Wolfman movie where we slow pan to the sheriff or the constable and he has a wound on his arm and everybody gives him a knowing look and then the credits roll. So I'm tempted to say I think our Arc 1 villain should be the constable that hired people to go after the Wolfman. Because from my perspective, right, you're a werewolf who has been successfully terrorizing a city for decades. You do not want some young idiot werewolf messing things up. So I think we have this figure who attacked somebody and that person survived. And they're like, yikes, like this is not good.
Oh,
But
I like that.
But a werewolf has fingerprints. And so he can't go kill them because this is a magical world and scrying exists. And find person, find animal, like find creature exists. So this thing's like, I can't go near that guy again. If I go anywhere near him, it can get traced back to me. So I need to hire adventurers to do it for me. That way, when the players inevitably ask the question, like, why doesn't the sheriff do this? We know that there is an answer, and they can sort of maybe come to that realization, right? When they go, that's why he wouldn't do it. You know, they will immediately lock into that. That's my first instinct. Does anybody veto it, hate it, think it's stupid?
I like that. I like the idea that it hasn't been going around and making a bunch of werewolves. I think that there is an option to say there are some, and it's essentially like a family unit. This werewolf has been making a few every couple decades that he keeps close by. So that way there are other enemies to fight.
Yes, that's really a question about sort of scope of adventure, right? Them having servants I'm totally down with. Is like the family that is in charge. Is it the Baron, the Baroness, and the Constable? Are they all werewolves? And it's like really bad, and that's why they are so cautious. Like, it's the Baron, the Baroness, the Constable, and maybe like and a judge, because there's always a judge, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, I think I like that for our scope there. So I'll say like the sheriff / constable is the Wolfman, plus I like a Baron better than a mayor. That's a bias I have.
More fantasy.
It's also more correct. Like, it just feels better. Like a Baron, you know what a Baron is? A Baron is just important enough to be hard to kill, but not so important that killing them derails an adventure. It's like, oh, you killed the Baron of Bedegar. Well, you know, it's like he controls the local guards, so it's hard to get to him. But when you kill him, the king does not dispatch the royal guard to come kill you back. You're just kind of like, don't do that again. You know, there's sort of like,
you better have a good reason.
You better have a good reason you did that. Yeah, exactly. All that it being the Baron means is that you have to prove why you killed them. You can't just kill them. Great, so I think that's sort of Arc 2. Arc 1, we have our Wolfman. There's a couple of things I'm looking for. Who is the Wolfman? Who are they killing? Is it random? Are they outdoors? Are they indoors? Is it Jekyll and Hyde style? Is it, you know, the enemies of the person, right? So one of the main things we need to decide is who is the Wolfman killing and who is the Wolfman. Do they remember their enemies when they awaken under the full moon and hunt down those that have wronged them? Or is it strangers, people that happen to live near their home, right? I'm not quite sure which is sort of sadder or more interesting, which of those two, right? Because we're trying to do this like gothic horror thing. Is it worse to realize that their life is improving, right? Oh, I have been killing my enemies. Oh, work is going better because I've been doing this horrible thing. Or is it better if we find strangers, innocent people that they didn't even know?
We could kind of slightly different. It's people that they like. It's the first thought I have is it's somebody that runs like a shop a market sort of thing. And it's his like best customers. And each night, like one goes, and the next goes, and the next.
So kind of a Sweeney Todd.
Almost, yeah.
It's
And
weird.
he's sad because it's his best customers, but it's the people that's closest to him.
Oh, like he has contributed to the reward.
Yes.
Hilarious.
He has put money
Yeah.
into the reward to find whatever has done this. I think that's pretty good. It weirdly reminds me of the newest Halloween movie. Danny Trejo is in it at the beginning, and he's like a guy who's really sweet to Michael Myers, and is like, "Hey, don't mess with him. You know, he's just a kid." And then Michael Myers kills him at the end, and Danny Trejo's last line is, "I was good to you, Mikey," and then he drowns him in a toilet. Yeah, so I think there's something there. What of those options do we think is best, right? So we're trying to make this werewolf adventure. We're starting with this lone person that has been infected because they survived an attack. So again, our options as they stand. They're killing strangers, they're killing their enemies, or they are killing people they are familiar with, aka like the customers of their store or business. What do we
They're
think
killing
is...
people they're familiar with, I think is great. I think market stall is also solid if you're trying to get information about like what happened when he first transformed. The other market owners will say, "Oh yeah, he always stays extra late. He's the last one in the stalls closing up shop when everybody else leaves, and that's why he got attacked, 2 months before."
Familiar folks, customers, I love that. Okay, and then we get this sort of detail. They operate a market stall. They operate a market stall, and they work late hours. They burn the midnight oil. And of course, they were attacked. Everybody knows that they were attacked. They were in bandages for days. They looked miserable because we have that whole gap until another full moon, right? So it's like, oh, they looked awful. Maybe they got better real quick. They looked awful for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, they seemed kind of fine the next time that we saw them. They seemed to really be on the mend. You could get just a throwaway line. Oh, they must have gone to the Temple of Pelor and gotten some healing done, because they look great. They seem to really get on the mend after a while. I guess they just made enough money to go get it healed, and then they are just dismissing it off. Because as far as these people are concerned, they live in D&D world. They think it's a fucking ghoul. They think it's a ghast. They think it's some nasty ochre jelly living in the sewers, and they're like, yeah, there's somebody who get him. They've sort of written it off in a way that everybody else hasn't. I often think of the murder rate in Neverwinter. I often think like, what is going on?
Oh, it's so high.
Yeah. So again, we're going through this, and now we have a little bit of a better idea of where we're headed. Michael, where are you jumping to on our Wolfman adventure here?
I mostly have a question. I don't know this from D&D lore. Is moon phases the same rate as our moon phases?
Yeah, pretty close.
Okay.
The world of Dungeons and Dragons, specifically, I can actually only talk about Forgotten Realms because that's the only calendar I'm particularly familiar with, which is funny because we never use it. I just know it. So the calendar for the Forgotten Realms is sorted into 10 days instead of weeks. Their weeks are 10 days long. They have, I think they only have like 350 or 360 days in a year. And so their months are very clean, right? Their calendar looks a little sharper than ours does. It doesn't have that weird kind of back and forth toggle that ours does. Okay, so we have this Wolfman who is looking for the people killing his customers. He does not realize it is himself. He is the one doing it. They were injured a while ago. They famously stay late at the market stall. So who are the actual victims, right? We're writing an adventure. Who's dead? We need a little bit of something, right? I need to know something about these fools. Who have they killed? How many? Is it? I feel like 6 is too many, right? I feel like we can't have bodies littering the street.
Yeah.
At this point, Spencer's
I
on
think
3.
3 or 4.
And I think that our best maneuver would be, it's probably people who are well off. He likely sells some sort of luxury good in this market stall.
Great.
So it is the rich in the town, which adds another layer to the Baron and Baroness wanting this dealt with, because those are their political allies, the people that are well off in the town. Yeah. So it's like, oh, this is really bad for them.
Okay, so what are so three important people from town that would frequent a market stall, right? That have some item they really want that they would go buy. It might be worth our time to think about what this guy makes. Deeply ironic if he's a silversmith, but then I would question how can he work with his materials, right? Or is he not working with them? That might be a little on the nose for the players, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If it's like, oh, he's using gloves to do silversmithing, they're gonna be like, oh, this guy's the fucking werewolf. They're gonna immediately solve it. So maybe not that. What is something sort of dramatically relevant?
He
though,
makes
right?
steaks for vampires.
Oh, he's a butcher?
Vampires.
Oh, I
No,
gotcha.
I was thinking vampire.
Thanks. Yeah.
He could
I
be,
feel like-
honestly, it could be kind of fun. What do you call somebody that makes bear traps? What do you call that? That's got to be a job, right?
My guess is the blacksmith makes them, and then the trapper.
I don't know. That's
uses
kind of a
them?
huge jump from swords to bear trap to making a spring and making a spring and a
We'll see.
lever and a pressure plate and putting it all together. It feels like something that you'd be pretty specialized in.
Mm.
I'm just curious if there's a word. For
Yeah,
those
no,
of you
it's
who
a
don't,
good thought.
I love to dish out my go-to piece of advice. You've heard it on DM Writer's Room 1,000 times. Boys, pull up a thesaurus when you're writing for an adventure. There's few things as helpful. Spencer, what you got?
Bear traps were made by blacksmiths for the area.
What? Oh, okay. So is he
Yeah.
a blacksmith?
I think that's fun. I like that. I also like the idea that maybe there is silver here that has been like locked away.
Yeah.
So the party could find a clue in that there are like silver ingots in a chest locked underneath the floorboards.
So this is somebody who mainly makes traps and things for nearby people, but they also offer, they make some jewelry too. I think that's kind of interesting, right? This is a blacksmith who also makes finer craft. I think that's great. So victim number one needs to be lower, like things need to be getting worse, right? So
Yeah.
victim number one is the lowest status person we went off of. People who are off the table: the Baron, the Baroness, the Constable, and the Judge. For anybody just tuning in, we are making a Wolfman adventure where in Act 1, you are chasing after a Wolfman that has been killing people in town. And as you defeat them, you discover they were turned accidentally by the leaders of the town who have been puppeting this place and treating it like their own personal cattle yard for many years. This is just the poor SOB who got away. And so they need to hire adventurers to deal with him so that they can keep up the facade. So right now we're trying to figure out who is the Wolfman been killing without the guidance
Number one.
of others.
I've already got number one.
Sure, what is it?
It is the cleric of the temple in town. It gives an excuse for why he may not just have his curse removed right away. That cleric probably came to him for various goods, candelabras and the like, and he killed him first.
Some cleric to the moon god who is used to showing up. Maybe even they are the one that the silver is there for. Silver candlesticks for the church. They went to make it while the moon was full, touched the silver, burned their hand, and it started the transformation, and they killed them that night. In that very moment, found the next morning in a state of horrific carnage, having been mostly eaten, just a blood stain on the ground. And a cleric, you can also justify a cleric being attacked and getting away enough that there's not a dead body right out front, because like a cleric can misty step. A cleric can do things to get away that other people couldn't. I think that's pretty rock solid. So that's the first person to go down, is the town cleric. Who else visits a blacksmith at night? Because that's our number two. Another person that is foolish enough to visit a blacksmith in the wee hours of the morning or the late hours of the night trying to get a hold of something and discovering a terrible wolfman instead.
See, I was thinking about maybe like the significant other of like the Baron, not the Baron, but like the Judge or in that grouping. But not them exactly.
I think that would be our third victim. That's the victim that made them go, oh, we got to do something about this. We can't maintain. So our third victim then, I do like this is the Judge or the Constable's, let's just say like part like relationship buddy, the person that they're sleeping with. I could see wanting to run that a couple of different ways. I would say the stereotype, the trope would be that it is a lady of the night. Tends to be the way that these stories go. But we are not
The
writing
Baron's mistress.
we are not
Yeah.
writing a Penny Dreadful, so we can just say mistress, or I think can be fine there.
Yeah, we could do that, or we could do it like it's like their child, and their child. I say their child. But their child's an adventurer going into for a weapon.
That was going to be the second one. I think the third one should be the mistress of the Baron.
Child would
The
be
Baron-
werewolf, so that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
The third one would be the mistress of the Baron or the judge. She goes here to get gifts of jewelry that the Baron or the judge pays for. So at night she gets them and is thankful and then moves on. And he kills her in his werewolf rage. The second one I think could be... Go ahead.
I think we can add something that helps us figure out what happened. I think that an astute party will be able to find that our Wolfman, just a humble smith, the last gift that he gave her to give to the judge didn't come out right. And that's all it took for him to be the next one to get chomped. He knows that she goes to him for his gifts. He likes most of them. And he just made a necklace and it didn't turn out very good. And the judge got it and was like... And like Hannibal Lecter at the start of Hannibal, when that guy's playing the violin bad and he like kind of twitches and decides he's the next guy to kill. The judge is like, oh, yeah, we needed a new silversmith anyways. Tucks it in his shirt and that night goes to kill him and fails. The smith manages to get away.
Perfect.
Victim number 2, you had an idea.
Victim number 2, this would be somebody from the past of the Baron and the judge and that whole group.
Sure.
So my thought was it could be a former adventurer, which is what Michael was talking about. Former is kind of a stretch. They probably still keep up with their adventuring work and went to get like a weapon fixed up.
I think former, we don't need to dodge it, because I think that as players, right, you have this inclination that your party is going to adventure until they die. For most people, if you look at the world of the various settings of Dungeons and Dragons and the ludicrous pay for being an adventurer, you probably go like, I'm gonna go on 3 adventures and then I am retiring. Right? It's gotta be like joining the NFL. You're like, I'm gonna do this for 4 years. And then I'm gonna get, and in that 4 years I'm gonna get 12 concussions and I'm gonna die twice and get revived, and then I'm done. I got
millions in the bank.
You've got like 200,000 gold in the bank. It's time to move on. I also have crazy news. We're gonna take a time out on our Wolfman adventure. I was reading through my physical copy of the 2024 Player's Handbook today. They got rid of the random magic item table altogether.
Wow.
They tell you the number of items per tier that you should try to give, and they say, if you want to randomize the rarity, here's a table to randomize the rarity. But you pick the item, dog.
That's crazy.
Huge swing.
Just getting rid of it's crazy.
I think I like it. I'm not sure. It's a huge departure from like AD&D though, so I was really surprised. For those of you who don't know, the random magic table in the back of the book is like a long-standing D&D tradition, having this thing where it's like roll a D100, see what item you got. I like it, but a lot of people don't, and I guess they're just moving away. All right.
I never use it, but that's just me.
Well, that you also don't like giving your players random magic items, and it's my favorite thing to do. I love giving a barbarian a hat that makes their intelligence 19 and saying, do something with that.
Learn good.
Have fun, nerd. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so number 2 is a retired adventurer, somebody who did their work and does it no longer and has a previous connection to the Baron, Baroness, Constable, Judge, one of them, right? So we have a town cleric, a retired adventurer, and the mistress of the judge, all already dead. The party arrives in town and begins to prowl the streets at night, trying to keep the next victim of this terrible slayings from dying. Who is it? Who is victim number 4? I think I don't know who victim number 4 is. I'm tempted to say that victim number 5 is the judge. That victim number 5 is this thing's going to go after the judge, and then the judge will have to pretend to not be a werewolf while the party protects them. Because I, as a GM and as a player, would think that was incredibly fun to protect them, and then at some point realize what's going on and being like, that son of a bitch! Like, it was him the whole time! I think would be really fun.
Yeah, I love that. So victim number 4.
So who's the between step, right? Who's the next big person they don't want gone? My mind goes to, like, again, people who need the smith who could justifiably be there. Is there a town hunter? Is there a town historian? Is he making a piece for a statue in town? Like, what is...
I was gonna say captain of the guard, and I don't think that that's a good move. I
We
don't
already have
want
the
to introduce
constables. That would be
element.
kind of weird.
Yeah, exactly. I think a town hunter makes sense, depending on the size of this community. It could be something like that.
So if it's a barony, we would have, like, the leader of the local hunting lodge. This is the person whose job it is to maintain the lodge, make connections with the Fletcher, negotiate for meat prices, negotiate with other towns for meat prices, right? This is the sort of logistics guy. It's funny to think of it that way, but that is what you would do, right? And to some extent, you might have, like, the kingdom buying things from them, like buying salted meat and things from a nearby hunting lodge is a thing that could certainly happen, especially in a world of fantasy where going out hunting is a life or death prospect every time. Right? You would need a system of trained, capable people. You can't have hunting season and a bunch of dudes in camo go out to shoot deer when some of the deer are 100% skinwalkers there to kill and eat you. You kind of have to take a little bit more caution and care with who gets sent out. It's kind of doubling the adventurer a little too much. You had that, you liked the idea of it being the, like, leader of the town guard before you backed off it. Is there something closer to a town guard? I'm thinking a barrister. I'm thinking a tax collector. I'm thinking
honestly, I like the idea of it being the guild master of the hunters.
Okay.
Primarily because whether you save them or not might impact your access to the Hunters Guild's wares. They likely have silvered weapons for their time out in the woods, something you probably can't get anywhere else. So if you save this person, you will get access to silvered weaponry.
It would be interesting. You could even put in plot hooks where if they try to hire the smith to silver their weapons, you could even say he will accept their money and he will say that he will do it. But no matter how much time passes, something will always have gotten in the way.
Yep.
He will always have a reason or something that happened, a burn, an injury. Something will happen and he will not be able to do it. And I think that that's kind of a good... We don't want the players to spend too long figuring out who the werewolf is. So I think we can kind of center that. Great, so we have this sort of litany here. And then finally, if your players totally drop the ball, the 5th victim is the judge. This werewolf goes after the judge, and you end up defending the judge who's surviving terrible wounds, right, despite being a commoner with 4 HP. It would take a party that has, like, a certain awareness for you to be like, you see the judge, and he is already deeply and profoundly injured, and then they watch him take another hit, and he's still up, and a seasoned player or adventurer would be like, the judge is still alive? And you'd be like, the first time as a GM, you say he takes 15 points of damage as you see him slam into the wall, his arm bends unnaturally, he just kind of, like, shakes it correctly and cowers behind you. You'd be like, he just tanked 14 damage? Who the fuck is this guy? And that question becomes important as the fight goes on. They might end up killing the judge and the Wolfman is still alive. And then we move into Act 2 with the Wolfman still a character, which I think is a fun option. Right? The thought that he doesn't have control of his powers, but he is there. Kind of a fun blend. Not guaranteed. I think most parties are going to kill the Wolfman. But having that option, I think, is kind of interesting. Is there anything else we really want to happen in Arc 1? Is it just a murder mystery where you investigate these 3 cases and there are some signs of what has happened? And who else are we fighting, right? We need combat encounters. We need like 7 minimum. Who are you fighting that's not a Wolfman?
I did what we were supposed to. I think we do have to make the Wolfman likable.
Yeah, of course. I think we've framed up a pretty likable dude, a town blacksmith who also makes jewelry, who made the candlesticks for the church, and does all of these things. The other people in the town square are like, oh yeah, he got really hurt. We were worried about him. This is a member of the community, well known. We know he knows all these people, so he is the guy who makes the arrowheads and things for the lodge. He's the guy who makes gear for adventurers and explorers. This is a well-liked figure in the central market of what is probably Nicole Offbook has said, make the Wolfman hot. All right, we're gonna add he's hot.
Now, here's the problem. The Wolfman, I don't know if the Wolfman should be hot.
He's hot.
Or if the Baron should be hot. That's sort of the question here.
Why not both?
Everybody's sexy as hell.
They're all well. We know the judge needs to be nasty because he's the judge and he's corrupt. And I've read horror books. There are tropes. So the judge and the constable can be nasty. The Baron and the Baroness can be hot, and the Wolfman can be hot. But you have tiers. There's an amount of evil. This is actually I would love to make this chart for a TikTok, especially in D&D adventures. The hot to evil ratio is, if you're extremely good, you're usually very attractive. And and as you get more normal, it goes down. And when you're only a little evil, it goes up again. And then if you're middle evil, it drops. And then when you're full evil, it's all the way up. Yeah, it's sailed.
It's the weirdest little W.
Strahd Bonzar. Yeah, exactly. You've got that. If you're the big bad, they're like, we've got to give him abs for whatever reason, which I think is pretty funny. Okay, so it sounds like it's a pretty straight up murder mystery. So my question remains, what else can you end up fighting?
I have a question that I think will lead into that,
Great.
Which is more of a prompt. I think we need some red herrings. I think red herrings in this first section will be important, so it's not immediately like, I know who it is, it's just this man, and they go and kill him. So I think with the right red herrings, there can be a couple of combat options as well.
I have an idea.
Sure.
Even though, were-rats.
There's a were-rat as well, baby.
It fits.
It fits. We're doing were stuff.
It's putting a hat.
Totally
putting a hat on a hat a little, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Here's what I'll say. I'm gonna write were-rat in the sewers. I'm gonna write were-rat in the sewers, and I don't even think that there is any combat encounter to be had there. I think you run into this nasty rat man who's living in the trash, and he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, did you kill them? And he's like, what? And he visibly didn't do it. They're like, he's thin, he's frail, he doesn't have claws, he just has teeth. He just has big front rat teeth. You assume and you're like, oh, he must have those things. And then you look at him and you're like, this is just a big rat. He couldn't have done this. Rat man. So we got were-rat in the sewers. I think maybe there's give me a ghoul or something, right? Something is prowling in the area, and when you kill it, the killings don't stop, right? So this red herring would be, if you don't investigate enough and you kill this red herring, then you celebrate, and then person number 4 dies. Mm-hmm. So what is that? What is the thing that they can get distracted by? My first inclination is those basic fodder: bandits, ghouls, ghasts, shadows.
Flesh.
What?
Mound of flesh.
One of those big ass from Curse of Strahd.
Shambling mounds.
Enemies. Shambling mound.
Those are made of plants, but I guess you could do a flesh shambling mound. I have no issue with that.
I like the idea. Yo, what up, James? Welcome back.
James hit us with the absolute, the local stone carver is a Medusa.
There's too many hats.
The thought,
There's too many hats.
The thought, though, that unrelated, unconnected from anything, the local stone carver happens to be a Medusa is hilarious.
Hilarious.
Would be solid. Good job calling them a Medusa and not a Gorgon. Just made a video about that bullshit. Okay. So what is this thing? I like ghoul. I like gas.
The idea
I like undead.
It's a graveyard. There's been like some upturned graves recently as well. This is sort of another thread they can follow, where it's like people think that it's something undead. They go and investigate, and there is disturbed earth that has been pushed away. There is truly just a ghoul running about, also doing bad shit.
Ghoul plus necromancer or just ghoul?
Maybe just ghoul.
Sure.
I feel like if you add the necromancer, then the cause for celebration will still stand. Where they're like, yippee, we did it. It's like, well, yeah, a little bit. I think just a ghoul is fine.
So a couple of, we are playing D&D, so it's 3 ghouls and a ghast, and there's CR5 total, and that makes them well built for a party of level 3 adventurers.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. So we got were-rat in the sewers, and that's going to be more of a skill challenge, right? For those of you listening, one of the great losses of 4th edition with skill challenges, and goddammit, I'm not letting go. It's trying to pursue this were-rat, although there are now chase mechanics, which are remarkably similar to Call of Cthulhu's. Shout out Wizards of the Coast, you're the best plagiarizers around. Skeleton crafted into scarecrows by a witch, that's extremely fun. Kind of a good ghoul if we were looking for one. Also just a good idea for an adventure. James, I hope you're running these one-shots. You put layup after layup up in this chat. Do yourself a favor, get that Halloween game going. So you chase down this ghoul ghast combo. You chase this were-rat through the sewers only to discover that it's just a nasty rat man. I think that's great. My internal Terry Pratchett would say, you discover not only is he not a threat, he is not a were-rat, he is a were-man. He is a rat that was bitten by a were-man. And he's like, other way around. Or it's like, no, you see, I was a rat, and a fairy godmother tried to turn me into a footman for a princess, and I got stuck. He's like, I'm halfway, and it just won't. I really was hoping the domino would fall either direction, and it hasn't. And he's just in the sewers. Like, now I can think, and I have to pay taxes. It's awful. That would be my instinct, but I'm also a pretty jokey DM, and I know not everybody is. So,
Vlixian, good. They asked, what if there isn't a necromancer? But a way to make people think that there's a necromancer.
Yeah, I mean, I think finding these ghouls and ghasts and these dead bodies are going to make people be looking for an evil and nefarious spellcaster.
We double red herring. You do this ghoul thing, and they're like, also, a creepy customer has been walking around gathering up all the parchment in town.
I think our connection could be the were-rat, right? It's you go to this place and you see eyes watching you from a nearby sewer drain, like somebody is watching you fight the ghoul. You chase after them, and it is a random were-rat. It is a random dude.
Now, hear me out. The were-rat man. When you interact with them, my first inclination is to make him, I would say, slightly mentally unwell. He's rambling. He is off-center. He's feeling strange. Like, when you interact with him, it's weird. And he is giving away some of those later details. Like, who did this to you? And he's like, the Baron, right? He's talking about that. But you brush it off as he's a crazy rat man in the sewers. But the clue is still stands. It's not a full red herring. There's something to be gotten out of it.
And I think there's ways to deliver the line that are really effective. He's like, what do you mean? The Baron makes rats of us all eating off our tables. And you just kind of don't realize that he is so whipped up and focused on the Baron or the Baroness. Mm-hmm. Like, he is like, I went feeding through their finds. Never was the same, and basically you discover that there is, body parts being dumped in the sewers beneath the Baron's house, and it's just nobody's listening to the Rat Man. Kind of a reverse Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, sort of a non-vigilante. I love it. Yeah, I know they. It's difficult to navigate. We just brought it up. Now that we've been writing more horror stuff, it's difficult to navigate the changing scope of mental health and that it is bad to call things insane. Because it is
Yeah.
such a cultural shorthand, right? We all know it from
Oh,
movies, we all
yeah.
know it from books, we all know it from TV. But obviously there are problems with saying it. They recently went with mental stress is the new 5e way to do it, like somebody who's stressed. I've been mentally trying to switch over to nervous breakdown, to like somebody who's had a breakdown tends to be the best way for me to like navigate it. I've been listening to At the Mountains of Madness to prep for something I'm working on right now. And in that, I've never heard so many different ways to say dude went nuts. He's like, the annals of his mind have been carved of obsidian. And then like 3 later, he's like, the nervous malaise that brought low my good friend Mr. Peabody. And then like 3 later, he's like, the malaise of the mind, the foul air. And I'm like, geez, how many ways can you say my man's not doing good? The answer's a bunch, apparently.
I like the idea of calling it At the Mountains of Mental Stress.
At the mountains of mental stress. At the mountains of a hard day at the mill.
I get
so
why
good.
Wizards is doing that and calling it mental stress. It's a different thing. We're all referencing a different thing than mental stress. At the mountain of mental stress is nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's be so for real.
The one,
go ahead.
the one that I like is they're marvelous. They've lost their marbles.
Yeah,
Oh,
they lost them. No, they lost their marbles.
I see.
I think, to my mind, madness works still, because I would never look at somebody freaking out and go, he's gone mad! I would never say that, and no one else
That's because
would.
you don't have enough whimsy in your life.
I know. I would never be like, he's gone mad! I'd be like, oh my god. Like, this dude's not... So I think mad and madness are pretty alright. Maybe somebody can correct me. Get in the comments. I don't know. Send us a thing. I don't know. Shoot us a TikTok. I don't know.
Yeah, you got it.
DM Spencer on the TikTok and bring it up to him. All right. So I think that's arc 1 pretty well fleshed out, right? They solve the mystery. They deal with a couple of red herrings. If they manage to deduce they are red herrings and they don't take too many long rests, they will save everybody. If they fall for them and then sleep dies, if they mess it up again, the judge gets attacked, and they have a very good chance of figuring out what is going on. Sort of a way to force them into Arc 2 if they're kind of dragging their feet. I think most players are going to immediately make a Fred from Scooby-Doo Insano-style trap that will catch the Wolfman on the first night.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what I think we would do. But I'm very excited to see how they go about that as we continue to talk about it.
The judge would win, right? We would write that in, that if the Wolfman attacks the judge will kill the Wolfman.
I think the real answer is no matter what, the judge does not die.
Yeah.
Right? Because the werewolf, fun fact, cannot hurt the judge. The judge is invincible to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons that are not silvered. That's just werewolves in 5e. He's immune. So he cannot be hurt. Werewolves cannot hurt each other.
I like the idea that if it attacks and the party's not there, the judge will kill the Wolfman, and then the party will show up and be like, holy shit, it's a Wolfman. How did you do this? And the judge will be like, my guards defeated him. And it's like, okay, can we see the silvered weapons? And the answer is no, because there's no silvered weapons in this house.
That's a good...
And there never will be.
I'm going to check really quick, just because I want to get some rules lawyering out of the way before we get to it. I'm going to hop on D&D Beyond on my phone, which means it's going to take 35 minutes to load. Go ahead.
Well, you're checking. Vluxian has asked, the mountains of mental stress. Do you think it has landslides or avalanches?
It would probably be more like a pebble slide if it's mental stress.
The mountains of... I love the idea that the Mountains of Madness are impossibly tall mountains in the Arctic Circle that lead to the Plateau of Lang. The Mountains of Mental Stress is like a normal mountain that when you looked it up on all trails, it said it was a 4-mile loop, but it's kind of a 6-mile loop. And you get to the top and you're like, I didn't really have time to do this today.
I don't want to do all that.
The mind-shattering truth is that you're probably going to be late to the birthday party you're supposed to be to later. That's pretty
Mind
good.
shattering truth. Those people on that trail website lied.
No!
How'd they do that?
Eyes roll back in their heads as they lose their minds. Absolutely. So let's take a look here. Our werewolf. Oh, they're definitely going to replace it. It has that. For the record, for those of you who don't know, 5.5 is coming out a bit at a time. Any monster that's got that parentheses 2014 at the end, you're like,
You're done.
you're playing you're playing the violin on the Titanic, baby. Thank you for doing it. Yes, so werewolves have damage immunity from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't silvered. And the bite and claw attacks of a werewolf are not magical. So my question is, how does the judge kill the Wolfman? I've got to be honest, I kind of like the idea that the party sees the judge being attacked and interfere, and right, that is what we would do. And because the judge can, in theory, live an infinite amount of time being attacked, we know that they will get there. And so maybe the question is like, you said this thing's been attacking you. You're untouched. What? You can even go so far as to say, like, his robes are in tatters, but he's fine. A high perception character is going to be like, what?
I would say the Wolfman can be a thing of our own creation. This is a being that wasn't fully transformed into a werewolf and is instead Wolfman. And Wolfman can be injured by regular weapons.
Oh, so it's like a vampire spawn.
Yeah, we're doing a werewolf spawn, basically. Wolfman.
I do love the idea of trying to make, in the lore, like, it's rare, but it happens, right? If somebody gets attacked and it doesn't take, they can end up something in between, right? They can end up stuck.
Out. He went after being attacked and touched the silver, trying to make the candelabra for the cleric, and that probably halted the transformation, lore-wise.
Damn, so this guy does look like Teen Wolf, huh?
Yeah, he's Teen Wolf.
Mhm.
He's got the varsity jacket and everything.
Wait, James has just brought up a very good alternative, which is that the judge has socks that make them able to hurt werewolves. That's just really good.
Crafted.
The thought that the judge shifts into his werewolf form and all his clothes tear off except for a tight pair of socks, a pair of
Real
Nike that are up. That's really good. Another 5.5 thing. I've been reading the DM's guide. Magic items aren't unbreakable anymore.
No.
Oh, wow.
And how are they still fine?
Only
2,000 years later in the dungeon.
What it says is any magic item is as indestructible as its normal form. Some magic items are more resistant. They all have resistance to damage, is what they say. Artifacts only cannot be destroyed.
I get it.
So
It's
essentially,
fine.
any magic item that's not an artifact would last twice as long as a normal item because it is essentially resistant to the damage of the world. And we find like Viking swords in mud pits, so you'd pull it and it would be like it was half the age. So instead of looking 600 years old, it would look 300 years old in your hand, which I think is a bold choice on their part.
I'm gonna be so for real. I'm ignoring that new rule.
Okay.
Magic items are indestructible.
I could see there being a villain in a world just going out trying to break all magic items.
Now that's pretty fun.
I have one of my favorite factions to have in our game. Spencer's played in a campaign with these guys. Is a religion that believes that eventually the world will end, and when it ends, there is a single arcane caster left, that the gods will abandon mortals for their hubris, and that everybody will be damned. And so they destroy every magic item, every site of magic, every book. They kill every spellcaster, and those that they cannot kill, they strip them of their magic, believing that they are saving the world in the long run by doing so. Is one of my favorite factions. So I love this change. I think this change kicks ass.
Val, is that so? You mean the row of eyes can be ruined by a pair of kitchen scissors or a low-lying branch?
If
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
strong enough.
Resistant to all damage, I think, would probably still be pretty beneficial. But I do think there is a precedent here. I just thought that was so interesting because it used to be.
It really is.
If you've got a +1 sword and you're in the this trap from you're in like the garbage chute. You just clink, and you're good to go. So I guess I see why they got rid of it.
There's two things. So there's a spell to rust things, right?
There's a rust monster that can rust
There's a-
things. I don't think that there's a spell.
Now I do know
Okay,
that the
so-
rust monster specifically can only do it to non-magical items, if memory
Yeah.
serves.
Okay. And
So
then
that
the
would be a fun
other
thing to say.
thing-
I would say that magical items in my book would be resistant to damage and immune to the ravages of time. That's how I would say it. Like a spell scroll is lasting infinitely.
And
but-
that's all they needed to say, because I would love that.
But if you throw it in a fire... Actually, I gotta be... Wait a minute. Maybe this is just me. I want 3 gut reactions. We're gonna say it on 3. If you throw a spell scroll into a fireplace, what happens? Right? Take a moment to think. Like, what happens? You throw it on the fireplace. What happens next? I'm gonna count, and I want everybody to say what they think happens. This is gonna be... Also, you guys are all about to learn our latency rate. 1, 2, 3. The
It
spell goes
burns
off.
Okay for a while.
And then a bunch of...
I said the spell goes off.
I said... Go ahead.
No, I say it's okay for a little bit and then eventually, but it takes a while.
Okay.
The spell scroll burns, and the fire changes into the color of the circle of magic that it is meant to employ.
3 completely different takes. I thought
Totally
all 3 of
different.
us were going to say spell goes off. Like, of course it
No,
does. What do you
no.
mean? Okay, so,
two other things.
sure.
Spell like warp metal.
Heat metal.
Heat metal,
me-
yes.
heat metal. Would that? Do you think that would break a magic item?
It would heat it up.
Yeah. So all heat metal says is it gets too hot to hold,
Okay.
right? You drop it if you cannot deal with the constitution, which means that it doesn't... This is a little pet peeve I have. That means it doesn't get that hot.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Right.
150.
If it doesn't melt your skin, that means that it's like 100 and exactly. That means it's like 155. It's like touching a hot mug, and you go like, ah, damn, and you have to like put it down because it's like a really cheap ceramic mug. Is about as close as they can get. We gotta get back on topic.
Last one. Back, Val had a question.
Sure.
Sorry. They were asking, what do you think about Artificer's ability to duplicate magic items now? Do you think it's that's pretty important now?
Yeah, you know, I'm really interested to see how that develops in 5.5, right? They haven't brought the Artificer up to the new edition yet. I think they are whenever they release the Eberron sourcebook. A bunch of people were like, no Artificer? And I wanted so badly to comment and be like, the Artificer has never been in a player's
They're
handbook.
not core.
I think
They're
ever.
not core.
I love that they can duplicate magic items, and I would say that that would certainly become more valuable in a world where a magic item can be destroyed by a clever plot and a pair of tongs. I think definitely it would make artificers a lot more important. It would make the mending cantrip. Everybody
Huge.
takes mending. They're like,
Huge.
yeah, exactly. All of a sudden, I understand how, you know, I almost said ours. I guess I can. I understand how, like, the college at Remgastelon makes their money. You show up with the shards of Narthil, Blade of the West, and they go, wah, and fix it. And then all of a sudden you have your +3 Holy Avenger, and you're back to doing whatever it is that you were doing. With that, I must insist. It's time to move on to Arc 2. You have killed the Wolfman or found some way to break his curse. You learn through that he is being watched. Either you deal with him trying to kill the judge and you notice the judge is uninjured, or if you are somewhat more careful than that, maybe the Wolfman gets a last word out, says something, but I think what is more likely is you realize you are being watched. As he dies, whoever has the highest passive perception of the party, even if it's not that high, looks off in the distance and sees a pair of reflecting eyes gazing back from the darkness. And if you make pursuit, you see a larger, more powerful lupine beast leaping from rooftop to rooftop, and you know that your job is not done. Something turned this man. Maybe it's just an Arcana check, right? When you find the form of the Wolfman, the DM should describe, like, this half-transformed unpleasant thing. I'm thinking of things like An American Werewolf in London, where they're like having to peel the skin away to transform instead of the kind of clean transformation we expect from D&D, right? And so seeing that, somebody should say something. And I think a pretty low-level Arcana check would tell you the worst thing you could learn. This is a botched transformation. That means somewhere in the city there is a real werewolf. This man was attacked, and he survived, and this was the result. There is somebody in the town still. And the party, upon investigating and looking, hopefully having already met the were-rat, will start to look around, and the Baron, the Baroness, the Constable, and the Judge will sort of inevitably be the next place they go. So what do we think? I think our inciting incident, the one I like the best, is the party is ambushed at night by one of these people. Having made the discovery, whoever was watching them knows they figured it out, saw them, heard them, and they are attacked shortly thereafter. They kill the werewolf, full-fledged werewolf that attacked them, only to discover that it is the judge or the constable, the person that hired them to do this in the first place. What are we thinking? That's just my first gut check thought.
I think that's probably the most active version. My only thought was, if the judge has a mistress, he probably has an actual wife or partner who may be sort of a scorned lover archetype, who will leave a note for the party saying, like, you need to look closer here. As it could be a fallback plan if they don't get information otherwise.
These are all really good. That's the problem. Ambush, scorn.
Oh, and then of course she leaves. She leaves the town, so you can't ask her direct questions.
You find her dead.
You're dead, whatever.
No,
whatever
this is Gothic horror. She passes you the note. You go to her house to try to talk to her to get more details, and you find her impaled on the wrought iron fence out front of the house. I mean, come on. There are rules. We got to do something. Yeah, certainly. That's the juice. Okay. So either it is this ambush, or you discover it through clues. You can, and then it just says the ripcord. If your party has absolutely botched this adventure, if they have fucked it up in a way that is so rare that it is unbelievable, they get a letter in the mail that says, "It's my husband, I've seen him do it, and he talks to the Baron every night." And then that lady dies, and the party's like, "Oh no!" You gotta. It's important for you as GM, for those of you, we're prepping an adventure right now, right? That's fundamentally what we're doing. Leave yourself ripcords. Do not put a secret note in a secret compartment, in a locked desk, in a locked office, in a locked manner and go, all they need to do is pass 3 DC 20 lockpicking checks, and my adventure's on the road. You can't.
And if you're going to, you leave like 17 other ways for the adventure to kick off. You need to.
Yeah, if you're really dedicated to having it be some profound secret, get prepared. I don't remember what show it's from, but the clip where it's like, I found your clues, and it's like, actually, I left 245 clues, and you found 12, but good job.
That works.
So that's what introduces them. So now my question is, how do we go about taking down these highly powerful people without them just telling the guards that you are attacking them? Is it that they're afraid to reveal their secret because that's like the most easy one-to-one? Is it that, like, does this town not have guards? That might be a good option, right? If it's a town and it has a blacksmith and a market, but it's not much bigger than that, then it might be like, we have a constable and a deputy, and that's what we've got. We've got a constable, a deputy, a retired adventurer who's dead, and the hunting lodge. Like, we have a militia. Do you want us to call the Minutemen? Like, that's what I've got for you. I think that actually is kind of good. You've got a constable, you've got a deputy, and that's it. You don't want law enforcement in your town where you kill people every month.
Yeah, makes sense. I have another character to introduce, and it is the former party member or mentee of the adventurer who was killed. I think they can show up probably in Act 2,
Sure.
trying to figure out what's going on, and will be another avenue that the party can approach to try and glean some information about what might be happening.
Yeah, how do we make them radically less cool than the party? That's it. That's my only rule. And this is the most important advice I will ever give on DM Writer's Room. If the party meets somebody cooler than them, they need to be the busiest person alive. If they meet anybody cooler than them, they need to immediately have to leave to go do something somewhere, and they need to stay there. Gandalf rules, right? Send that dude away. Muldoon from Jurassic Park. They're like, what's up? I'm an expert with a giant shotgun who knows how to hunt dinosaurs. I killed one at the start of the movie. I'm gonna go hide in that concrete tube for the rest of the movie. And you're like, what? And he's like, yep. And he leaves and you never see him again. He is gone. Well, and then until he eventually...
Then he gets killed.
In the book, Muldoon is just hiding. Muldoon is just...
Hell yeah.
I think Muldoon survives in the book. He's just like, ugh, and then goes back to hiding the whole duration.
A real hunter knows.
A real hunter, yeah, exactly. So why is this adventurer either not as cool as the party or busy?
They are... I don't think they're busy. I think that this is somebody who is actively investigating. This is their primary thing. I think that they're just super low level. This is somebody who was taken on as sort of a squire, who then was like, all right, I'm ready, I'm trained, I'm going to go off on my own, did one adventure, and now has heard that their master's passed and has returned. Like level 2 or something.
So this is
who has information, but that's all.
So this is a challenge rating 1 sidekick.
Yes.
It's because it's
So
so
they can just
important
show
as
up
the
and be like-
GM. And what I would say, because I think peeks behind the curtain are bad. They always are bad for the fiction. But as the GM, I would be like, I want to make something very clear to all of you. Victor Cran, this guy, his sidekick who has come back, is CR1. He has 12 hit points and an AC of 15. His stats are 10 strength, 12 dex, 10 con, 12 wisdom, 8 intelligence, 14 charisma. And that's what he's got going on. This dude is made of glass and straw.
Yes. It's somebody you can bring along potentially, but as like an NPC companion. It's nothing more. And beyond that, you can be like, why was he here? Why was your master here? Who they're interacting with? Is there any information inside their house you can help us get? Stuff like that.
It reminds me of, so for those of you who don't know Pathfinder, when Paizo comes out with adventurers, they're called adventure paths, and they come out in small books, and there's usually like 5 books, and that makes up an adventure. So instead of buying Curse of Strahd, you would buy book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, and they're cheaper, and they're like kind of magazine built. There's one called Gatewalkers, that is one of their big ones, and in book 1 of Gatewalkers, you can meet a anthropomorphic hedgehog named Hubert Hedge, who is completely useless. And the book makes very clear, Hubert will stay by the party no matter what. He will help them in any way he can. He is also completely useless and can do nothing. And I just think that's so good. It's just this guy. They're like, hey, here's a breakable idiot. Take care of him for the rest of the campaign until he gets eaten by a slug in 3 adventures.
So good.
So you meet this full sidekick character as a part of this arc. You meet this scorned wife character as a part of this arc. They are ill-fated, but maybe not automatically dead, right? Let's not fridge any characters. Let's be responsible storytellers here. But they are in danger. Yes, exactly, James. He is Riker from Star Trek. He's there to say the very obvious thing everybody should already know and then not do anything else.
I think it was a werewolf.
But my master worked with silver. He wouldn't have been able to fully transform. And it's like, thank you. Thank you so much. Very helpful of you. Absolutely huge. What I love about that is when we write our adventures, we can do whatever we want. So I would say, you can either include this character or cut them depending on how dumb your party is. It's a direct correlation. The smarter your party is, the less you need this guy. All right. So that's an outline of how they get into Arc 2. We're probably going to wrap up here in the next 20, 30 minutes. What do you do in Arc 2, right? We know there's no constables or any. There's just the constable and his deputy, and the deputy does not know the constable's a werewolf. So, or is kind of a Renfield character who wants to become one. We could do something like that if we wanted to. My real question is, what does this arc look like? Is this a totally open world West Marches? You say you got 4 people you need to kill. Here's a map of the town. Do it. Figure it out. Lay a trap.
I think to make it so it's not just kill 4 people, go here, kill 2 people, we need a MacGuffin.
Yeah. Oh,
which are
I hate MacGuffins.
Often hated. Many people don't like MacGuffins.
I hate them.
Ethan included. I just think that if it's figure out this murder mystery, now kill, now kill, and now kill, and now kill, and then go here and kill, it gets a little bit played out.
You say that our party the people that we play with would not have the time of their lives with me going, there's 4 people you need to kill, here's a map of the town, do it. And you guys wouldn't spend the next 6 months coming up with increasingly harebrained bullshit schemes to kill those 6 people. No, yeah. So we want a MacGuffin. I'm just struggling to see what the MacGuffin is.
It would be, so here's a follow-up question that might help elucidate.
Great.
At what level are our fool-ass characters in this if they're fighting werewolves?
Werewolves are really not, fundamentally not high CR creatures. They're CR3.
Nice.
CR3 is pretty low on the totem pole. That means that the party that is going to be going up against them, this is where we're going to get into a little bit of, I'm going to say some controversial opinions. If your party has 4 people in it, I would throw a level 1 party up against a CR3 werewolf and just hope for the best. Somebody's going to go down, but that's just how it works, and parties are strong. If there are 6 of them, if you have a party of 6, that werewolf's going to drop hard. The main issue is just we can't be level 1 because the damage output of a werewolf is too high. So this is where we get, I am so sorry for those of you who will be triggered by this. I'm about to start talking about math. I know.
No.
I know. Yes. So the average hit die for a character would be to round down half of 1d8 plus the original 8 at the beginning, right? So a normal character with a normal spread of stats is going to have a starting health at level 1 that is somewhere between 6 and 15, with the most likely number being between 10 and 12. Their AC is going... I know, guys, but we're GMing. We got to do it. Their AC is going to be between 12 and 16, but no higher. Because nobody can afford plate armor at low levels, but somebody wearing chainmail with a shield and a sword is going to be up in that 15-16 range. A werewolf is making 2 attacks with a +4 to hit, so on average, they will hit. And they're doing an average of 6 damage per hit. So those 2 hits drop a character unless they are a barbarian. So that's too swingy. That means these fights are going to be too hard. So we can't go level 1. Level 2 effectively doubles those hit points, right? We go from 10 to closer to 16. And the to hit bonus stays about the same. So now they can take 2 full rounds of attacks. So what I'll say is, if we want this adventure to be hard, they should be level 2 or 3. So basically, you'd be level 2 for Act 1 and level 3 for Act 2. If we want this adventure to be a little easier, you'd be level 3 for Act 1 and level 4 for Act 2. I'm so sorry that I made you listen to math. I'm really sorry.
That's all right. I think 3 and 4 is good. I like starting at 3 from a business standpoint because players like starting at level 3.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense, right? So the average enemy is going to be having 12. The average werewolf is going to have 12 AC in their beast form and 58 hit points. They have no resistances. They only have the immunity. So if you have silvered weapons, The average damage output for a fighter is going to be 1d8 plus 3, give or take. Because we have that 15, you have that initial stat bonus, you're probably going to get that up to a 16, but probably not up to an 18 at this very early level. So that means on average, they are going to be doing 7 damage a swing. They're only going to be attacking once. That means it's going to take 8 successful rounds, 8 successful turns to kill this. With a party of 4, that means the werewolf statistically will be dead by round 3. That's not bad. At level 3, that werewolf is going to die a little earlier because we're going to have some additional abilities. We're going to have smites. We're going to have higher damage spells. They're probably going to survive 2 rounds if they are by themselves, right? They're going to take that first bevy of hits. It's going to get them down to like between 12 and 20 HP. And then the second is going to bring them down unless they have allies. So I think 3-4 is a great balance. 3, you fight a werewolf by itself. 4, you fight werewolves in pairs.
Nice.
Also,
now
it's not going to be werewolf, 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 werewolf. It's going to be the Baron, who has a couple of abilities, and the Baroness, who has a couple of abilities, and the Judge, who has a couple of... Because we can't just be like, 2 more werewolves, nerd.
I think that the MacGuffin can be as simple as silvered weaponry. Going to the Hunter's Lodge and convincing them to give you their silvered weapons. Or it could be as complex as... you need to find the stone of sunlight that will temporarily remove the lycanthropy from whatever monster you're fighting.
There's only one way for this to be cool, and we got to do it. Either the Baron or the Baroness originated this curse.
Yes.
What did they do? What druid grove did they burn? What standing stone did they destroy? What ancient tree did they chop down to build the first... That's my first thought, is like, they cut down a holy tree to like lay the foundation of the Baron's Manor. And when they did that, this curse said, "You have preyed upon my forest. You will prey upon your fellow man for the rest of your days." Right? That's my first inclination. There is a druid somewhere.
I think we tie in the sewer. It's built on like a river, right? On a creek, a riverbed that has mostly run dry. It's built over this foundation and is filled with refuse. So that's pretty fucked up. I would curse somebody with lycanthropy if they shit all over my stream. So there's that.
Okay, river. So I think James has just said they moved a small graveyard. So I think that there is something I really like here. I think that we can blend these two ideas. We love to take things from chat when we can. I know we can't always do it, but we do our best. Here's my thought. When I think of these sort of like weird holy sites, like a river that would be built over, so that, right, that tells me some important stuff. Number one, this is a mill town because they needed water for water wheels. That also tells me that they're ejecting a bunch of shit into the water, which is great to know. So my thought is, this was the classic magical site. A large oak tree at the bend of a river with a body of a druid who died many moons ago buried beneath its roots. And they cut the tree down and forded the river and made a mill town. And in doing so, put a terrible curse upon themselves. The MacGuffin, then, to me, is something that belongs to that druid. So Nicole just walked by your camera, and what it looked like from my angle was somebody in the window, and I will never forgive her. I was like, "Whoa!"
I'm just terrified. Ethan.
Where at?
That was
He's
awful.
coming to get me.
That was
He's coming
awful.
out of the page.
So, is it something of the druids? Is there an item that you are looking for? Or is it that you need to break the curse so that they can be killed? Right? I think both options are fun. Number one, you find something of the druids, restore it to their grave site, and the magic of the druid disrupts them for a moment, right? You find this thing that they stole when they dug up the body. Option two, you need to break the curse. You do them a favor, and in doing so, disempower them. You know, you need to plant an acorn of the oak tree at the bend of a different river. You need to break the fording. You'll flood the town, but people might, people probably won't die. and it'll end the curse. Will you trade a town to end this thing? You know, like that kind of trolley problem could be fun.
I think it double. You have to bury the druid. So you have to locate where that druid ended up. And it would be the fucking graveyard where the ghouls were coming up. Because of the residual magic of that druid. Oh, it's already there.
It's all coming together.
You have to bring that back. You have to destroy that floodgate so it washes through the town. And then bring the druid from the graveyard back to that bend in the river. That breaks the curse.
What I like about this is it's also optional. Right? It totally works. You get the druid out, you bring them to that place, they bury them in it. When you bury the druid, that oak tree like cracks the pavement and grows to its full height as the curse is disrupted, because we still want there to be a cool fight. You know, these things they're like limping. We describe them as having power, right? Different powers, because we don't want this to be boring. You see those powers broken. What I also love about this is there is also the option to just guts from Berserk style, roll your sleeves up and go, I'm not doing no fucking mystery, and just go toe to toe with four werewolves. Like, if your party wants to just scrap, okay, like, I'm not going to stop you. But those fights should be hard, right? The party should fight the first one and be like, is there a secret ritual? Is there a stone? Like, that's where the fucking shit.
Adventurer sidekick comes in. He's like, my master told me about the creation of this town, and then he gets some information that way.
This is some real hocus pocus bullshit that I'm kind of into. Michael, what's up?
Fun idea.
Great Halloween episode, guys. This has gotten awesome.
Fun idea for like a little extra boon for completing the extra quest. Give the players a little magic item. Nothing strong, but a little fun thing, like a branch from the oak trees, like a little wand or something.
It lets you use shillelagh or something. That's pretty cool.
Can I say something? A quarterstaff that you can bonus action, like, poof, and it shillelaghs? If that's not in the DM's guide already, what are we doing? What are we doing? That's great. I'm stealing that. Bare minimum, get ready to find that in our next campaign. All right. So that's a pretty good outline of what the basis of this looks like, right? The party starts to take on these higher level, more difficult werewolves. The first fight, they assume, going off of their experience with the Wolfman, will not be so severe, and it is brutal. It can like summon wolves and do all these things, because these are, we've accidentally done this, but it is obviously true, because this is a town that's fully developed, and when the town was built, these guys were doing this. These are ancient werewolves that, and even I think you could have some fun with if they commune, if they speak with dead, with the body of the druid is like, it was meant as a curse, but they reveled in the bloodshed. They did not run from it. You cannot curse a hungry man with sharp teeth and claws. All they will do is feast the more for it. And so it's like they fully just delved into the curse. They are purposefully feeding it to gain strength and are just reveling in the power it gives them, with no regard for the fact that they need to kill people to do it. These people are truly like antisocial. They have no attachment to their fellow man anymore. So you fight the first one and it is brutal. And then this like sidekick character comes looking for you. And I want to be very clear. This is another moment. This mystery will be seeded in Act 1 and 2. And if the party has been absolutely dipshitting their pants, then we're cute. That's the t-shirt. Dipshitting their pants. Then this guy comes along and goes, my master once told me a tale. If your party is just like, if you're like, you see a library and an old man with a knowing look in his eye, and they go, nerd, and leave and go to the next thing.
I pants him.
If you're like, you see the journal of the blacksmith, I throw it in the fire. Nerd. And you're like, okay, great. They kill the first guy and you're like, you see behind him what looks like a staff made of the branch of the old yew tree at the center of town. And they go, I snap it over my knee. And it's like, all right, I guess, okay. The guy shows up again. The sidekick comes back. Is a good device to be like, all right, whatever.
Perfect.
All right. So that's a pretty good layout for what the general look is, right? You fight one of these general look. You fight one of these. You engage with the mystery. You go to pursue it. The next werewolf tries to stop you. Right? You encounter the judge first. He tries to kill you because you are interfering with his plan. You kill the judge. You go to start to solve this mystery. The constable attacks you next. The constable tries to stop you. You fight the constable in the graveyard.
In the graveyard, for sure.
You fight the constable in the graveyard. The constable can like summon mist and do things like that. They have a different set of abilities that are equally shitty. They can cast like mirror image on themselves, and you're fighting them in the dark. It is effectively like fighting more than one creature as you are dealing with this. And then we move on. You kill them. You break the curse. All that's left are the two that started it all. The Baron and the Baroness. You know they need to die. And the Druid, you see a vision. This chance has been given, but it is not forever. If the Baron and the Baroness do not die tonight, who knows? Like their curse will return in greater strength. Some shit like that. That sort of leans them towards it. And so you have to go to the manor and have a big, cool fight in a big, complicated house. Right?
That's it. That's the ball game right
finished.
there.
That's the sound of a finished adventure.
Da-da-da-da.
So this is where, on a normal one of these streams, where we didn't sort of have to... apologies, we had some pretty severe technical issues and had to start a little bit late. Spencer has been what I can only describe as sort of... Spencer's internet is a bucking bronco that he pretty much every stream needs to fucking get his hat on and try to force to work, which is much appreciated. So in this moment, my next instinct would be, what are the abilities of these 4 werewolves? We have 5, either 7 or 2 minutes going off of our usual schedule. So, alas, I do not think we'll be breaking down the details. For those of you at home, take this as a little piece of DM Writer's Room homework. If you were writing this creature, right, a CR, probably if a normal werewolf, CR3, if you were writing a CR4 werewolf called the Judge that was empowered by this ancient ritual, what would your judge be able to do? What would their actions in combat be? What would their bonus actions be? And they damn well better have some. What's the one reaction that they might get to use? What do they do in combat? What allies do they summon? Take a moment, get out a note card, scratch some of that out, get an idea for what you would be excited by as a player if you were playing and you had to deal with this like enhanced werewolf figure.
I have one, and I'm going to say it before we hang up the call. It's called Warding Duel. So it's like Compelled Duel and Warding Bond combined. So it says, I'm going to fight you. And then if other people involve themselves, the person they're fighting will also take the damage of you hitting that wolf. So if it's fighting the barbarian and the cleric casts a spell on this wolf, the barbarian will also take half damage on that spell, full damage, whatever it is.
Nice. And you can like break the bond by hitting them with a silver weapon, so they're like constantly trying to avoid damage. That's great. So with that, we have 5 minutes left. Let's do a bit.
Yeah, let's do a bit.
It's been a minute. Do we want to do pop culture character creation, or do we want to do you said, he said, I said?
We'll do pop culture character creation.
So for those of you who don't know, Spencer is our bit manager. We have a couple that we do when we have a couple of minutes left at the end of stream, but not enough to sort of keep talking about something major that we want to do. You say, they say, I say is each of us comes up with two of us choose a monster and a location, and the third, poor SOB, needs to create the adventure or scenario that surrounds them. We've had a lot of fun with that. And the other one is pop culture character creator, where we randomly generate a pop culture character, and then we try to decide what their class and subclass in Dungeons and Dragons would be. We had some fun with this. And my favorite debate being, is Walter White an artificer or a rogue? Is he a mastermind rogue? Or is he a alchemist artificer? We had a good long argument about that one that I thought was pretty
Mastermind
good.
rogue for sure. I still believe that. All right, I've pulled up the list. Who wants to roll 1d100?
Here, I got it. I got dice right in front of me. I'm rolling my very, very small dice.
Oh, nice.
No.
Small dice, small number.
8. A 68.
Oh, come
What a
on.
way! All right, 68 it is though.
Two things.
Two things.
Klazar thinks that they're criminal background artificer.
Very fun. I think that there is some. Well, I would say they're definitely not criminal background. That's the only one
Keep
that
the
I would.
background.
Is there school
Scribe.
teacher? Is there school teacher? Like, what's the?
Cloistered scholar.
Is there cloistered scholar? You're right. They would be cloistered scholar. What was the other?
Oh, and then Pig the First. I wish that we had a D100 roller on Switch.
We've got nothing on our overlay. We need to roll dice for everybody to
we
see.
do need something like that.
I know,
Those are something they have
I
an
bet
idea
you
for
there is
$5.
some kind of source I can find that will let us live roll a thing. It's just
100%.
Our current, for those of you, our current budget is negative $5 a stream. So not quite there yet, but at some point we'll hire some poor programmer, I'm sure, to slap that together. Spencer, who's number 68?
It is, and you're never going to believe this, Ellen Ripley from Alien.
Ooh, all right. God,
Now,
her
this
name
is
is
right.
Ellen?
Yeah, let me double check.
I've only
Ellen
ever heard
Ripley,
her
yeah.
called Ripley.
Yep.
They pretty
Ellen.
rarely address her by her full name in that. Okay, great.
Also, everyone say thank you to Klazar for a follow and Pig the First for a follow.
Thank you
Shout out for
so
the
much.
follows.
Hopefully you'll be
Thank you.
you'll see more as we continue. We love this stream and our others, and thankfully, if you're just following now, you missed our sabbatical, and so we will be back to normal. And as far as you're concerned, nothing's different. We're just proceeding ahead. All right. I'm gonna pull up some class options on my phone just so that I can make choices based on something. Does anybody have any like early? Well, no, that's not really how the game works. I guess everybody sort of think through. So for those of you who don't know, Ripley is the main protagonist from the Alien franchise, specifically Aliens, Alien 3, Alien 4, I think is our last Ripley movie. I could be wrong about that. I don't remember if Alien Resurrection is 4 or 5. All I know is it's the one with the worst reviews. And she is this kind of, she's navigating a spaceship in the first one, trying to avoid the alien. In number 2, she is kind of kicking ass alongside the like space marines, helping them destroy the planet. In 3, she has full superpowers, and in 4, in Resurrection, she is like supernatural reflexes
Almost
and can
a
throw a
god.
basketball over her shoulder and sink it on the first try. She is like a super soldier by the 4th one.
Which Sigourney Weaver did do. I do need to put that out there.
famously.
That was real.
The interview
so
where
I
Ron
have
Perlman
mine.
is like, I was in disbelief. I almost shit my pants when she
He
did
almost
that.
ruined the shot, which is my favorite bit of that because he exclaimed right away. All right, so my choice, swashbuckler rogue. I think that her being this co-pilot on the ship fits the swashbuckler styling. I think that she's not afraid to throw down combat-wise, clearly, but for the most part does stealth about the cabin of this ship. I think all works together very well. Also dashing, and I think swashbuckler rogues have to be dashing. And that's my pitch.
Great. I am going to come at this from the angle of somebody who has seen all of the Alien movies. Ripley is an Oath of Vengeance paladin.
Huge.
I think
Huge.
Yeah.
I think you are 100% right. I think in the movie Alien, Ripley is a
Yes.
rogue. I think beyond that,
Yeah.
Oath of Vengeance paladin. She simply cannot die. She is too mad to die. And will
Vengeance is also accurate, for sure.
and she takes down so many of these things over the course of it. Specifically, her like suiting up scene in that cargo loader in 2. I'm going Oath of Vengeance paladin.
Putting on the plate mail,
Yeah.
as it were. Michael?
That's nice. So two things here. I have my answer, and I also have Klazar's answer.
Love that.
Nice.
My answer, Gloomstalker Ranger.
Got another ranger. Oh,
yeah.
we got a ranger. I saw that Stefan said, Brambles said in the
She has a
chat,
cat,
she has
so
a
she's a
cat.
ranger.
You're a ranger.
That makes sense. It's just Gloomstalker is all about the invisibility and stalking about and darkness, and also inciting fear. Ripley's incite some fear.
Oh yeah.
And then Quasar, well, with Beastmaster Ranger.
Beastmaster. We got a lot of Ranger getting thrown
Yeah.
around here. Yeah, I mean it makes sense. It makes sense with the cat.
The only other
I like it.
The only other one I don't think I would go with, but I could be convinced would be a monk. A monk of some stripe. The 5e monk.
She's so fit.
Yeah.
She just works out all the time.
By the way,
that makes sense.
another thing I've just noticed now for the first time, our monk subclasses are no longer way of. You are now you are now warrior of.
Ooh.
So you are a monk warrior of shadow.
Pretty fun.
That goes kind of
That's pretty
crazy
fun.
style. I kind of love that.
Does.
All right, so I think we had a pretty good spread. Our audience favorite was the Ranger, and Michael sort of took up the torch of that as well. Our in-house, I went with the Paladin, Oath of Vengeance against those Xeno scum. Spencer went Swashbuckler Rogue. I'm amazed no one just went Battle Master Fighter. Which is the other one that I was considering, but I think it's the least fun option, so I'm glad we didn't do it. All right, I think pretty rock solid.
Yeah.
With that, it is 9:47. We are a little over. Congratulations, you stole a couple of extra minutes. So, here at Foolhardy Press, we have 3 streams. They all start at 7:30 p.m. if there are no technical difficulties. At some point, I'm going to get a poster to put up when we have technical difficulties that is like that cat that says like hang in there, hanging from a string. Our shows all start at 7:30. On Saturdays, not on Saturdays, oh my god. Our show started at 7:30 on Sundays. You can catch Game Master, Masters of Games, where we play through different games, either in an attempt to master them, or because we think we already have. We're playing through Baldur's Gate 3 right now. We are sprinting towards Act 2 as fast as we can, while also trying to not miss too much content, because Michael's never played before, which I think is a good hook for the show. On Mondays, you can catch The Party Makes Things Worse, and you are just in time to catch the finale of the Prince of Charming, Spencer's Monster of the Week campaign, which has been a huge truckload of fun. Upcoming soon, I am going to be running the next one after that, which will be in the D&D system, and you'll hear more of that as we continue. And then, of course, on Tuesdays, you can catch DM Writer's Room, where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with adventures, monsters, and magic items live with you all, trying to sort of integrate the things that you come up with and make sure that they work together. Definitely check us out on TikTok and YouTube. Spencer does a lot of good work over there, making fun and informative videos. We should have a couple of new ones forthcoming. We try to do 1 or 2 videos a week, pretty routinely. And TikTok is a little bit more jazz. Sometimes Spencer puts up like 6 of those in a week, and sometimes there's a little bit less. It's really up to if the muse, if the inspiration of TikTok is speaking to him or not. Check us out on DriveThruRPG. Our first adventure, The Lich's Dollhouse, is up, and I'm going to say at some point, Void's Eye is going to be up. I've been saying Void's Eye is going to be up soon for about 6 months. So I'm going to say, keep your ear to the ground. Toss a loose hand of dry leaves into the autumn wind. Watch them flow, and you will know when Void's Eye Observatory will be released. And we are starting to look at working on some new and exciting projects coming up here in the near future. That's got to be everything. So,
That's everything.
With that, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you here next week. Thank you very much. Peace out.